Well, tomorrow, the Investigative Directorate will find out if its extradition application against the Gupta brothers will be delayed again or if it's on track. This morning, the theft, money laundering and corruption case involving the Estina Dairy Farm against Mosebenzi, Zwane and others was postponed until January in the Bloemfontein Regional Court. Judgment in the Nulane Investments case is expected in the High Court tomorrow. Govan Whittles is in Bloemfontein, joins us live. Govan, of course, the Gupta brothers, this case very intrinsically linked. As it stands, it's one of the few matters that is before the court that could lead to a trace of evidence between some of the allegations they're accused of around state capture and actual evidence that may point to that.
Indeed, in the case that was heard briefly this morning at the Bloemfontein Regional Court, the Estina Dairy Farm case, is linked to the fate of the extradition application to have the Guptas returning from the UAE, because essentially the arrest warrant that was issued for the Guptas was for a feasibility study that was conducted on whether or not agricultural projects were possible in the Free State. Eventually, the Free State government did undertake the Estina Dairy Farm project. It was worth 280 million rand and 80 people were supposed to benefit from it, community members. In the end, none of them did. And in the dock today, we had the former Mineral Resources Minister, Mosebenzi Zwane. He was there because he was the former MEC of Agriculture in the Free State government, and he was accompanied by a number of agriculture officials, former officials, who were said to be essentially the fixers who made this transaction happen. And before we get to the Guptas, we should take a look at what the Investigative Directorate had to say about the progress on the Estina case. Remember, they provisionally withdrew the matter against the people accused in the Estina Dairy case, essentially accused of looting the government. At the State Capture Commission, we heard testimony that before the Free State government made an upfront payment of 30 million rand, there was just 16 rand in the Estina Dairy Farm case. Today, the sole director of Estina, Mr. Vasram, was in the dock. He was accompanied by the former HOD of the Agriculture Department, the former CFO, and another official who was a witness at the State Capture Commission. Interesting that the Investigative Directorate says this case will reveal that their testimony at the Commission doesn't line up with the evidence they've managed to collect. Let's take a look at what Cindy Siboka had to say about the Estina case, and we'll move on to see what she had to say about the Guptas and how the Nulane investment case, for which judgment is expected tomorrow in the Bloemfontein High Court, will impact whether the extradition is delayed or sped up.
For starters, this is the second attempt that we're doing as a state to basically make sure that some of the shelf companies that were created, what we're alleging were part and parcel of how the Gupta family benefits are actually brought to book. Currently, we're bringing those that aided and abetted and ensured that they make the money actually get to the various Gupta entities to account. What we're also saying as a state is that this is the second strike. First was Nulane, now it's Estina. Both of these matters are what we put in our application for the extradition of these particular persons in another jurisdiction.
That's Cindy Siboka, who is the spokesperson for the Investigative Directorate, speaking to NEwzroom Afrika after that brief appearance of Mosebenzi Zwane and 7 others in the Bloemfontein Regional Court. Tomorrow's case is really interesting because the Nulane Investments company, owned by Iqbal Sharma, known Gupta lieutenant, launched a application essentially to have the court declare whether the NPA's Investigative Directorate had furnished enough particulars about the strength of their case against Nulane Investments to the company itself. This is important because judgment in this matter will determine whether or not the state has a strong enough case to warrant the extradition of the Guptas from the UAE. And the Investigative Directorate saying that if they lose tomorrow, if the judge declares that they need to furnish further particulars about the case to Nulane Investments, it would delay the extradition process for the Guptas. But if the judgment is in their favor, it would mean that they could proceed with negotiations at the UAE to convince that country that the Guptas need to be brought back to South Africa to stand trial on the Nulane Investments case. It's a 29 million rand case. Essentially, Nulane Investments was paid that money to conduct this feasibility study on whether or not it's possible to have the agriculture project in the Free State. They then subcontracted that to Deloitte, which conducted the work for much less, and the rest of the money, the Investigative Directorate alleges, made its way through several accounts before eventually reaching the Gupta brothers. It's on this basis that they had those arrest warrants issued for the Gupta brothers. By then, the Gupta brothers had left South Africa, and if they returned to the country, those are the charges that they were likely to face, and that's of course what the Investigative Directorate hopes they would face if they are brought to the country again. So that's the state of play. That's what we're anticipating tomorrow. And we should say that the NPA seems quite confident.
All right. Well, Govan, they can ill afford any more delays in this matter. We'll leave it there for tonight, Govan.